I'm Aislyn Greene, and this is Unpacked, the podcast that unpacks one tricky topic in travel each week. And this week, as part of our unpacking series, I'm traveling to the sandy paradise that is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I love beach music, always have and always will.
I am dancing with a doorknob. Okay, well, I'm not really dancing with a doorknob, but I could dance with a doorknob. I'm in the back room of a bar called Fat Harold's Beach Club. In the main area, a DJ is playing that song you just heard, I Love Beach Music by the Embers. And a woman named Mandy Holt is teaching a room full of people how to dance the shag. If you don't know, and I didn't know before tonight, the shag is South Carolina's state dance. And here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, this is where the shag was born nearly a century ago, right near the sandy beach that's maybe 3 minutes from where I'm standing. The shag is like a slowed down version of the jitterbug. And while the dancers twist and shimmy, I look at photos and plaques that commemorate decades of the dance. On the far wall is a row of vintage-looking doorknobs located at about hip height. And that's because the shag has a very small footprint on the dance floor. If you look at videos on YouTube, you'll see that you really don't move around much. And back at the height of shag mania in the 1940s and 50s, if you didn't have a partner, you'd hold on to one of these doorknobs and practice your moves. It's just another layer that I'm peeling back in this place, which has the prettiest beach I've seen in years. But as this room and the dancers outside of it are proving, Myrtle Beach is much more than its sandy shores. Of course, the beach is what draws people here, and it is a stunner. Picture white sand, warm, swimmable waves stretching for miles, a pretty boardwalk capped with a Ferris wheel that lights up at night. Coming from Northern California, where I live, and Washington State, where I grew up, the beach is a revelation. The Atlantic Ocean isn't frigid, at least not on this warm June day. The sand is wide and inviting and soft, an easy stroll from the many hotels that line the beach. And there's just so much of it. Geographically speaking, however, this area is more complex than I first thought, because people often say Myrtle Beach when they're really referring to something much larger.
So we collectively refer to it as the Grand Strand. We're actually 14 communities that go from the North Carolina border all the way down to Georgetown County, and it's 60 miles of wide open beaches.
That's Stuart Butler, the Chief Marketing Officer for Visit Myrtle Beach. We're chatting in the Visit Myrtle Beach tourism office, where you can see that Ferris wheel called the Sky Wheel from the parking lot. As you just heard, Stuart is British, and he moved to Myrtle Beach, the city, in 2001.
February 12th of next year will be my halfway point, where I'm half English and half American. So
Stuart loves living here, and he loves his job. He also represents something really cool about the city, its diversity and its relative newness. The city of Myrtle Beach came into being on March 12th, 1938. And it has a pretty glamorous origin story.
it was about the halfway point between New York and Miami. So rich and famous people would travel up and down the coast, and they would need somewhere to stop because that wasn't a one-day trip back in the day. And so they'd stop around this area. And eventually we created what was called the first $1 million hotel, the Ocean Forest Hotel, which is rich with history of who stayed there.
Sadly, the Ocean Forest Hotel was demolished back in 1974, but there's still a lot of cool celebrity history. More on that soon. Stuart says that because Myrtle Beach is such a young city, a lot of people, like himself, aren't from here originally.
I mean, we do have people that are third, fourth, fifth generation, but the vast majority of our population, 80+%, have lived here fewer than 20 years. So we become this place which is a melting pot of people from all cultures, all walks of life.
After I leave Stuart, I walk to the Myrtle Beach boardwalk. It's a little over a mile long and lets you take in so much of what makes the city unique. There's the beach doing its beachy thing, piers that jut out into the lapping waves. There are beachfront stores. I stop in and get some saltwater taffy, which is a total beach weakness of mine. Many of the stores look like they're straight out of the 50s. And I see hotels with a mid-century vibe, and then there's the Sky Wheel, this 187-foot tall Ferris wheel with glassed-in cars that provide epic views of the city and sea. This area is the nerve center of Myrtle Beach. It's also where you can quite literally see the city's past and present meet. I wanted to know more about that, so the next day I leave the comfort of the sand for a dive into history.
Good morning, everyone. There we go. Good morning, everyone. We're going to find a sweet spot in just a sec. There it is. And I welcome you to the Myrtle Beach History, Movies, and Music Trolley Tour. I'm Catherine Hedgepath. I'm the creator and narrator of all the Myrtle Beach History Tours. This is Tom Matthews. We are with Carolina Limousine and Coach, and we are going to take you around Myrtle Beach and tell you its, well, coming-of-age story from the mid-20th century to present day, the movies that were made or premiered here, and our impact on music history.
I'm sitting in a custom-made trolley with elegant wood seats. It is wonderfully air-conditioned, a nice respite from the heat of the day. Kings Highway is the main thoroughfare in Myrtle Beach, and as the trolley turns onto it, Catherine explains what we'll be doing today.
Now, we're going to make 2 stops. The first is going to be in the new historic district, and the second is going to be at Charlie's Place historic site. Now, it's just kind of mind-boggling that the biggest names in 20th century music performed right here in Myrtle Beach from the 1930s to the 1960s.
We're driving along Ocean Boulevard now, and shocker, you can see the ocean from the street. And we pass hotel after gorgeous hotel, many of which have been used as film settings. Catherine starts to rattle off the city's illustrious film history, from the 1967 premiere of the beach classic Don't Make Waves to the much more recent and scantily clad filming that took place here.
Now, in 2014, you had Channing Tatum, Joe Manganiello, and some other hunky guys for the filming of Warner Brothers' second movie they made here, Magic Mike XXL. They shot the last scene of Magic Mike XXL on the boardwalk, and then the whole cast and crew just walked down the boardwalk to have the party right there at the 8th Avenue Tea Bar.
But I am especially taken by the city's music history. During my visit, the city was preparing to host the 9th annual Carolina Country Music Fest. So maybe it'll come as no surprise that one of country music's greatest acts has roots here.
Now, they're just 3 cousins from Fort Payne, Alabama, who from 1973 to 1980 were the house band in a dive bar. Now, when they started out, they called themselves Young Country. But after a while, they changed their name in 77 to Wild Country. But then in 79, they changed their name to Alabama, and apparently that worked out well for them. Because that's when everything took off. Now that little dive bar, the Bowery, well, you're going to see it in about 3 minutes.
That legendary bar still exists and looks much like it did back when it opened in 1944. But there's another very special place where some of the most important Black musicians of the 20th century played.
Welcome to Charlie's Place. This is Sarah and Charlie Fitzgerald. They moved to Myrtle Beach in 1935. They opened the club in 1937, and then years later they opened the motel.
Charlie's Place was a music club and a motel for Black musicians. We've stepped out of the trolley, and on one side of us there's this charming mid-century style motel painted bright white. As we enter, Catherine explains why it became a gathering place for musicians.
One, Charlie's Place was on the Chitlin circuit. If you're not familiar with that term, back during segregation, Black performers weren't allowed for the most part to play, popular large venues. But there were these other smaller venues where they could play, and that became the Chitlin circuit.
Bigger names also hung out at Charlie's Place because even if they were quote-unquote allowed to play white venues, segregation did not allow musicians to do any more than that. So they needed a place to stay and to hang out.
You had musical acts, especially during the swing era, like Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, Count Basie. They were so popular, they were booked in the big ballrooms. Because of segregation, all they could do was just play their gig. They couldn't hang out there, they certainly couldn't stay there. So then they would come down here for what Charlie would market as Saturday night specials, do these jam sessions. Can you imagine being in a small venue like Duke Ellington? I mean, it's incredible.
Catherine says that locals also called this place Whispering Pines.
And there's a legend behind that name. And it would have had to come into being in 1937. That was the year that the club opened. 37 was also the one year that Billie Holiday, Lady Day, sang as what they called during the swing era as the girl singer for Count Basie. She was popular enough, she sang in clubs in New York and Chicago, but for 1 year she traveled around with Count Basie's orchestra. So we know Count Basie was there, that he had come here. Now there was a stage and venue inside, but there was an outdoor patio as well. And the legend is that when Billie Holiday stepped on that patio and sang, her voice was so pure it whispered through the pines.
Charlie's place has now been preserved, though it was almost lost to history.
So in 2015, when the city started tearing down these motel units, people in the neighborhood came up and said, whoa, wait, what are you doing? There's significant historic value of this place. So I can't tell you how proud I am of my city. Not only did they stop, they pivoted, and they created a historic site that otherwise would have been lost forever.
The former motel and club will eventually be a community center and an event space, but a few of the rooms have been turned into a museum. The rooms are small but neat, with wrought iron beds, mid-century radios, posters of musicians like Ray Charles. There are even instruments. Catherine explains that history is also being preserved in Myrtle Beach's new Arts and Innovation District.
Now, our historic era began in 2019. Its name had been, for about a generation, the Super Block, but the name changed to the Arts and Innovation District. And then in October of 2019, we received our historic district status.
The historic district connects directly with downtown. You could walk from the beach boardwalk to get to the area we're standing in right now. We're in front of the Grand Strand Brewing Company, the second new business to open in the district. I see a freshly painted white brick wall with a mural of people dancing the shag. There are a few renovated buildings and some housing, and eventually there will be a museum or two, a new library, a performing arts center, and so much more. But it will all retain this quintessential Myrtle Beach vibe.
We're going to get back on the trolley, but as we do, I want you to look up 9th Avenue here, because we are in phase 1 of the new historic district. Up 9th Avenue is phase 2. The city of Myrtle Beach bought up all those storefronts, and you'll see where they have put in sort of retro-looking awnings to make it look like it did back in the day.
Because there is a distinctly retro feel here, and that is often celebrated.
Gosh. Well, I'm mostly known as the Retro Myrtle Beach guy.
The next day, I meet with Retro in the Arts and Innovation District. Retro, as you may have guessed, isn't his real name, but it's the main focus of his YouTube channel, also called Retro Myrtle Beach Guy. And Retro totally looks the part. He's got a mustache, horn-rimmed glasses, and a button-up Hawaiian shirt. Retro's videos are all about vintage car shows, theme park adventures, and mini golf guides, all in Myrtle Beach. I haven't mentioned it yet, but if you haven't heard, Myrtle Beach is a huge golf capital, and that extends to mini golf. Retro is also into highlighting things that most tourists miss.
Yeah, there's a lot of little hidden things. We have a pinball museum, which has all these gorgeous classic pinball machines from, some up to 100 years old. And I had no idea this place was here. I was at a car show that block not a couple weeks before, and like, oh, that's where it is. It's literally right here, hidden behind a bank. So, a lot of the stuff is, you even have to ask people, where is this place? Or you'd never even know to check it out. There's something for everybody here. Yeah, whatever odd interest you find, you'll find something that'll pique it here.
One thing that always piques my interest is food, and Retro shares a mind-boggling statistic.
We supposedly have a higher concentration of restaurants than like New York and Paris, over 2,000 restaurants here. So, and every year you're like, well, I didn't get to go to that place yet, but there's 10 more places that just opened up.
I Googled this and it is true. Myrtle Beach has more restaurants per capita than New York, Paris, and Rome. And when I ask Retro for a recommendation, in a very on-brand way, he highlights a vintage establishment.
And we've got Peach's Corner right down the road. That was from 1937. According to the signs on the wall, the world-famous foot-long hot dog. I'm sure it wasn't actually invented there, but that's where the foot-long hot dog's from. As a testament to how old the place is, one of the signs on the wall says, "What are cheese fries?" Because apparently that was a new invention that no one had ever heard of when that sign was made.
A world before cheese fries? It's hard to imagine. But it is easy to imagine breakfast here because there are a lot of pancake houses. And there's no way you can visit Myrtle Beach without visiting one of its iconic breakfast spots.
Red velvet waffles.
Oh, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you.
I'm at Johnny D's Waffles and Benedict's, a Myrtle Beach institution.
My name is Jamie Descalis. I am the chef and owner of Johnny D's Waffles and Benedict's and the Tasting Room on 9th in Myrtle Beach.
Johnny D's has been around for about 10 years. There are 3 locations, each of which serves breakfast and lunch. As the name implies, they specialize in waffles and Benedicts, and I'm eating one of Chef Jamie's famous red velvet waffles as we chat.
We're just like an American-style diner with really good food. And you go into a diner, you hustle and bustle, all the plate slinging, your food comes out fast. It's just like that. And when people come in and they say, this reminds me of a diner, I'm like, we did good today.
Throughout the week, I returned to Johnny D's twice. Once for a street corn omelet and once for the chipotle bacon skillet and a spicy Bloody Mary made with a local pepper vodka. It's one of those amazing Bloody Marys with a garnish that's like a breakfast unto itself. Slices of chorizo, bites of pepper jack cheese, pepperoncinis, and olives, all delicious. But when it comes to food here, there is a lot more under the hood.
I think people go there for like 2 days and they never leave like Kings Highway.
That is Andre James, a freelance food writer who grew up in Southport, North Carolina, about 40 minutes north of Myrtle Beach. He says Myrtle Beach was kind of like his backyard growing up. And Andre wrote this great eater guide to Myrtle Beach, so I reached out to him before my trip to get his take on where to eat.
You kind of go off the beaten paths or go to these little strip malls and stuff. You'll find that it's one of the most diverse food scenes in the country.
Andre says that it's tourism itself that has created this diversity.
When the city was officially incorporated, they put all their eggs in the tourism basket. So you have these hotels that people need to work at. So what happened was Myrtle Beach started letting the J1 visa workers come work for the summer, and a lot of them end up having to stay and having families.
And now you can find Georgian food, German food, Brazilian food, Filipino food, even legit Jamaican food. Andre loves a place called Homestyle Jamaican Restaurant.
I know what good Jamaican food tastes like. And like that place is spot on, like the curry goat, the oxtails, jerk chicken. They got ackee and saltfish, which is Jamaica's national dish. It's very, very authentic.
To find it, you just have to look beyond the big restaurant billboards.
You just have to say, I'll go in that strip mall. I'll go and, Anthony Bourdain, rest in peace, he would have a field day. He would have a field day in Myrtle Beach, for sure.
As the week goes on, I make my way down the Grand Strand because I've heard there's some incredible nature to be found here.
Have you smelled a magnolia before? A wild magnolia?
I don't know if I can say that I've actually smelled.
Well, you haven't lived yet.
That's Ann Wilson, interpretive ranger at Myrtle Beach State Park. The park is on the southern edge of the city, and it was the very first to open in South Carolina back in 1936. It's so much a part of the city that its 312 acres include 1 mile of beautiful beach. And it's pretty cool. If you approach it from the water, you see the stretch of white sand backed by a raft of forest, mostly these deciduous trees. And Anne and I are walking through it. There are oak trees and the wax myrtles that give Myrtle Beach its name, all filtering the bright sun. And we've just passed one of the park's magnolia trees. They bloom every May and June, and honestly, they smell like heaven.
All right, we'll go smell a magnolia. I have this favorite tree, and so I almost never not drive by. I have to get a flower low enough. Okay. And so I make all my staff, okay, we're smelling this. Again, Ann? Yes! Because again, in a couple of weeks, we won't get to smell anymore for a year.
Anne has worked here smelling magnolias and doing so much more for 30 years. She quite literally lives in the park in a simple home that she shares with her husband, who is also a park ranger.
I am known as Anne's did she go grocery shopping? Did she leave the park this week? And sometimes that answer is no.
Oh my God.
Her love for the park is obvious, all 312 acres of it.
We are an urban park, and so we're so tiny, and if this place wasn't here, it would definitely be developed. So we have a 1 mile of undeveloped beach for the most part. I love that you can still come in here, and even on a really crazy day, you can still find a spot to yourself. And there's no other place in Horry County, the county that we're in, where you can visit a maritime forest on a daily basis, a forest by the sea. And I love our fishing pier.
Anne is taking me to the fishing pier right now. It's such a cool feeling to walk through the forest and then boom, you're at the ocean. And all around us, people are fishing. A couple of times a month, Anne leads crabbing tours or workshops like the punnily named What Wildlife Will up here.
So today, in just an hour and a half, we had baby shark, 6-7 inches, brand new, super cute. We had a puffer fish, we had spade fish, we had moonfish. We did have some speckled crabs and lots of teeny tiny baby hermit crabs, and We saw schools of fish and jellyfish, and I mean, it's just, it's kind of like the job again. Every time we go out crabbing, you know, in my head I'm like, well, here we go. I don't know how it's going to go. I hope we catch stuff. And we have no idea what's going to be caught, or am I going to know what it is? Because it is the ocean.
They return all those creatures to the sea, by the way. Because the state park is so central and so busy, it's easy to forget how ancient some of the landscapes are. Anne and I are walking by a sloped, treed section that I would never think to look at twice.
So here we are in this urban park. So, you know, we're in the low country. Yeah. We'll look at that hill. So that's an old ancient sand dune. But also, see, we're in a state park and look, we came across the road. Right? So yeah, probably 10,000 years old.
The park's beach is filled with people laughing and playing. I can see Myrtle Beach's skyline in the distance, but if I turn around, it's just green. And it's kind of like you can see all the fun to be had in the city, but you're in this little oasis. And that's what Anne likes too.
But I love that we're just surrounded by, you know, one of the busiest places in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I mean, lots of people here, and then we're just seeing this cool little wildlife spectacle.
Farther down the Grand Strand is another lush green place, but with a very different history.
The Europeans settling here, they are expected to find a cash crop. How did they know, moving here with this massive forest, like you see a big open rice field here, it wasn't always like that, right? It was old growth forest. How did they know they could plant rice here?
That's my tour guide, whose name I've forgotten in my excitement at seeing an alligator. We're in a pontoon boat, slowly making our way down a creek at Brook Green Garden. Brook Green is a botanical garden about a half an hour south of Myrtle Beach. All around us are these open expanses of what look like watery fields interspersed with forested areas. We see turtles basking in the sun and more alligators lurking beneath the water. And our tour guide is explaining why the forest in this marshy region was all torn out.
This was the big potential. Well, it's because they knew that in this region we share the three major conditions where they were already growing rice very successfully in another region of the world, in West Africa. Already by this time, for hundreds of years, West Africa, which was known as the Rice Coast, was growing rice. Senegal, Sierra Leone, parts of Gambia, and they share these conditions we have. The hot and humid climate in the summer, the freshwater tidal rivers that they had learned to harness with those rice trunks for irrigation, and a nutrient-rich, dense, fertile soil. Here there's lots of nicknames for it. It's called gumbo, pluck mud, Georgetown clay. It's nasty stuff.
This was in the 18th century, and you can probably guess what happened next, since the Europeans weren't willing to actually do the work.
So who's going to do it? The West Africans, right? They started to be targeted and sought after specifically from West Africa, enslaved and brought over here to build this industry.
And it was horrible, brutal work.
So it took 7 to 10 years to build up one rice field, up to 70 acres. Every plantation had many. So for instance, our 4 plantations here at Brook Green Gardens totaled 3,500 acres of rice fields built up out of the swamps, surrounded by 35 miles of dikes built up by hand. Everything done out here, again, was done manually. So it's one of the most labor-intensive crops you could ever get into.
There are many eras that have unfolded in this green place, many intensely tragic, some more uplifting. Brook Green's intention is to hold all of these stories and share them with travelers.
Well, our mission is interpreting the history of the Low Country of our region, and that is critical to include enslaved Africans, Native Americans, and of course the plantation owners, since this was the site of 4 plantations. So we tell the story from Native Americans who were first here through the Huntingtons, and a focus of most of our interpretation is around the Huntingtons and the garden.
That's Paige Kinnery, the president and CEO of what is now Brook Green Gardens. There's some construction going on, and Paige and I are standing in front of what will eventually be the garden's conservatory and welcome center. After my boat tour, I walked around the gardens, which are enormous and intoxicatingly green. I followed the Low Country Trail, where stainless steel sculptures from the artist Babette Bloch tell the story of the plantation era. I passed the Low Country Zoo, where alligators, foxes, and river otters live. I also passed some baby goats and even met Angus.
Is Angus the garden mascot?
He is our ambassador.
Hi,
He certainly
Angus.
is.
Hi, how are you?
Yes. He is a Scottish Deerhound.
Okay.
And the reason we have a Scottish Deerhound is because Anna Huntington used to breed Scottish Deerhounds.
You have the lucky one who gets to walk him around?
This is my day. We have
That's
different
awesome.
people, different
Okay.
days. Yeah.
How fun.
Yeah, and he's descended from the bloodlines of Anna Huntington's dogs.
Oh, really?
Paige tells me that Anna Huntington and her husband Archer bought the property in the 1930s, though it was really more Anna's thing.
Anna Huntington immediately knew that this was a place that needed to be open to the public. And she took those existing roads that the planters had made and made them the center of the garden in the shape of a butterfly. So we think really took something and made it beautiful and accessible and transformed it into America's first sculpture garden.
Anna was unusual for her time.
Yes, before she was married, she was very wealthy by her trade. She was a renowned sculptor. She met Archer Huntington when they were in their 40s. So they got married late, and she had TB, which is why she came to this area looking for a warmer place to sculpt.
Brookgreen is famous for its sculpture garden, which has the largest collection of American figurative sculpture in the country. There are more than 2,000 works, including more than 100 from Anna, who designed the gardens herself. Paige takes me to one of her favorite sculptures.
So this beautiful pool around Diana, a very popular sculptural theme of Diana of the Hunt. She has a dog at her feet and really just framed by all these beautiful live oak trees. And these trees are 60 years old.
We're looking into a large brick-walled pond, and in the center is a brick pedestal with a bronze Diana, looking as though she's just flung an arrow into the sky. Anna created all of this during the Depression when there wasn't a lot of sculpture being purchased commercially. She wanted to step in and support artists.
So she was helping these artists continue their careers and placing their work outdoors, which was really something that wasn't done much on a museum scale, right? This sculpture, actually, the Diana, was in their home in New York City.
Oh.
And she moved it from there to really be one of the first and the centerpiece of the garden.
I ask Paige about the lush greenness of it all. When you drive down the highway to reach Brookgreen, you're surrounded by this incredible vegetation on either side of you that reaches to the sky.
We call it the green wall. So this is because the Huntingtons purchased 9,127 acres. So most of that is in conservation easement. And then I think one of the things I always suggest to people when they're coming is this is so much about a place. So wherever you are, that's a really authentically, integrated of art, of history, of, the flora and fauna. That was the Huntington's intention, and that's something that we protect so that it will always be a place where you can really learn, dig deep into all of how this low country area is integrated in all of those important missions.
That includes the Gullah Geechee Garden, which honors Gullah history. Because you can't or shouldn't explore this part of South Carolina without doing so.
So my name is Marilyn Hemingway. I am Black, African American, and Gullah Geechee. Gullah Geechee, yeah. And yes, there are Black Hemingways. You may have heard of Ernest. And there are a lot of us in South Carolina.
Marilyn is the CEO and founding president of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce and the Gullah Geechee Chamber Foundation. We're sitting in what will eventually be a resilient center, the hub of the Chamber of Commerce, and many other things. I've driven south from Brookgreen to Georgetown, a charming, colorful town right on Winyah Bay. Georgetown is also home to several institutions that highlight Gullah history, including 2 museums. And Marilyn has deep roots here. Her ancestors have lived here in Georgetown since the late 1700s.
So, the Gullah Geechee, we are descendants of individuals who were brought, bought, and kidnapped from primarily West Africa and Central Africa, brought to the Caribbean, North and South America, and many people know it as the transatlantic slave route.
Marilyn says that many people, when they think of the plantation slavery system, think of cotton and tobacco.
Cotton is involved, but primarily the enslaved individuals were brought here because of their knowledge of how to control water and manage the land to grow rice. Indigo, which is a plant that creates a blue dye, sea island cotton, and sugarcane.
Okay.
Because there were so many enslaved people from different countries within Africa, they needed a common language.
And from there, this mixture of West Africa tribal languages and English created the Gullah language, Gullah Geechee. Yeah. And also not just the language and how we speak, how we worship, the foods. When you hear okra, yams, watermelons, all from West Africa came with the enslaved individuals.
Marilyn is an amazing person. She has been named one of the 50 most influential people in the South, among many other awards, because of the work she's doing to support and elevate the Gullah Geechee community. One of her initiatives is the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail, which is the reason I've driven down here to Georgetown.
It shares the history of our maritime heritage, the connection to the water, and also where you want to go visit the restaurants, the seafood restaurants, just restaurants too. They're going to have seafood on the menu, they're going to be on it. The landmarks, the museums. If you want to spend a day in Gullah Geechee, Georgetown, you could go to See the Culture, and it has it broken down by county.
The trail just launched in May 2024 because Marilyn sees tourism as a key tool for supporting her community.
So my lane, and I said it from day one, economic uplift, because I looked around and I see a beautiful culture that was created under the worst of circumstances, that for the first 400 years was never paid. And then when it was paid, it was bare minimum. We're behind. And it was very intentional and deliberate to put our ancestors in slavery. We had to be intentional and deliberate in creating economic uplift and generational wealth. And I wanted to be part of the solution to that.
Her advocacy work is tied to environmental justice.
Because of our ancestors who knew how to control water and manage the land, we are inherently tied to the land and the water, as we all are. But this culture was created because of the knowledge, deliberately because of that knowledge. And so to honor them through actually living it, our advocacy work has been the environmental justice work. What does that really mean? You must have healthy air and healthy water and land to have healthy people. Mm-hmm. Healthy people leads to healthy households. Yeah. Healthy households leads to healthy communities.
When it's complete, the building we're in, which was once a segregated doctor's office, will be a fully off-the-grid building. And one of the first jobs they'll be training community members for is to work in solar technology. I say goodbye to Marilyn and walk to Georgetown's boardwalk. Later that day, I stop at one of the restaurants on the Seafood Trail's website called Eve's Caribbean Soul Food and eat a divine plate of jerk chicken with palau rice, sautéed cabbage, and candied yams. It is so good. As the day goes on, I think about the painful history here and the ways that people like Marilyn are working to lift up their community and to use tourism to do so. And I think about how I started my trip with a simple, lovely day at the beach, and with each successive day, I peeled another layer off of this diverse, enigmatic place, ending with one of the Grand Strand's foundational communities.
Enjoy us. I mean, we're a beautiful culture. Come down, eat our food, eat our cooking, because it is well seasoned. Listen to our music, because all of that's the root of jazz. Just come on down and visit us.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Unpacking Myrtle Beach. I had a wonderful trip. There were so many things I couldn't include in this episode, so you'll find links to my itinerary and all the places I visited in the show notes. Next week, we'll be back with a special Halloween episode featuring the hosts of the podcast National Park After Dark.
I have to say that one of the hotels that get a lot it gets a lot of attention when it comes to this time of year is the Stanley Hotel outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. I don't know if it's the most haunted. I have been there multiple times. We've done 2 live shows there. I do feel there's something there. There's a different energy to that space, but I find it really warm and comforting. Unlike how it's advertised usually with, red rum and murder and spooky, scary. I have always found it extremely warm and inviting, and I love it there so much.
Ready for more unpacking? Visit afar.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram and X. We are at Afar Media. If you enjoyed today's exploration, I hope you'll come back for more great stories. Subscribing always makes that easy. And be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platforms. It helps other travelers find it. And if you ever want to ask a question or suggest a topic for coverage, you can reach out to us at afar.com/feedback or email us at unpacked@afar.com. This has been Unpacked, a production of Afar Media. The podcast is produced by Aislyn Greene and Nikki Galteland. Music composition by Chris Collin. And remember, the world is complicated. We're here to help you unpack it.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.